Hello and welcome to Industry Insight Sessions from Changing Education. My name is Amos Madra and I'm a careers advisor for Changing Education. In this program, we speak to employers about their own career journey and tips and advice that they may offer you for your own career journey. My guest today is Charles Booth, who's the virtual digital marketing coach. Charles didn't do too well in school, so he did an apprenticeship. He decided to go into publishing, set himself up, but after 2 years of business failed, he was able to sell it. And from there, he was able to go into graphic design, which started off as a hobby. And when that business fell, he was able to gain more from his training. I hope I've put that right, Charles. Could you tell us a bit about what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's chaotic. You can't really. It's one kind of like a interesting step to another.
Yeah.
And it's weird. So like when I first left school, it was a bit of I've always had this thing. I've always worried about kind of how whether I'm stupid or not and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like I sold myself short quite early on because I did did things like gritting car parks and gardening and stuff. And then I actually had a youth worker, so like an organisation that worked, it was called Connections at the time, and I had a youth worker with them, and they got me to come in and talk to me and stuff like that. And they did like the whole thing about trying to encourage, and they got me onto this apprenticeship. And it's the first time you kind of realize, well, actually, maybe I'm not thick. It's a really strange thing to kind of, nobody openly goes themselves when they're a teen. You go, oh, I'm stupid. Nobody says that, I don't think. But there's always that kind of little voice in the back of your head. And then so I did, this apprenticeship, which was, it was in printing. It was a bit grueling, but it was nice. It was an introduction to kind of like newspapers and publishing. And I learned to speed read, which is a really weird thing. So I got into like the publishing thing just for a bit of fun. And then obviously, because everything's gone digital, and printing's like dying slowly to death. It's no one's really interested. Everything's gone digital, and what's been really interesting, particularly with this year and all the things that have happened, is all this. I started with just making a couple of websites and experimenting and learning and realizing actually you can do that sort of stuff. And then one thing I know, it's just over 2020 for all the chaos that it's been. Actually, you can do things online. People can still work online. You can still do stuff. And I was doing coaching before in classrooms, teaching people how to use Microsoft Excel recently, and then, you think, oh, you can only do this in a classroom. I can only do it by standing behind the red and shouting at them. With the power of screen share, you can, you can teach a lesson normally. You could teach people IT, you could teach people graphics, teach them web design online. And one of my friends he's a personal trainer. And so he gets his laptop, and he gives you an email with a diagram of where you need to place your laptop so that you can see him properly when you're doing your personal training thing. And he has it he's got a diagram where if you're doing it in the front room, you have your fireplace, you put it just up a little bit on your fireplace so you can kind of do it. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But it's a bit of a weird one. So going from the apprenticeship and then realizing, oh, do you know what? Maybe you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you can, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And you're a great example of that. So what was it like for you when you first heard about this whole apprenticeship thing, and what did you understand from it, and what did you gain from it? How did that get you to where you are today?
Oh, well, the first thing I honestly thought was, because I was looking for jobs and stuff, they said, oh, you've got to go to college one day a week, or you got to do some coursework. I was like, what? I didn't sign up for this. But very quickly, with your first, couple of the first time I went in, for me it was a day a week every Tuesday when I first did college. When I first went in, I went in there with kind of a bit of a chip on my shoulder, but very quickly realized, actually, do you know what? Every single person here, I was probably one of the youngest ones there. I was 16 at the time, and there were people who 16, 18, 20, that sort of age. And I realized actually everyone's a bit older. Most of them are adults. Some of them are, they're living on their own. They've got their own place. They've got their own lives and stuff like that. And so the first bit I noticed was actually you're not a child anymore. You're not in that kind of, teacher student, master, relationship, if you know what I mean. And when I was on the apprenticeship, it was like, well, actually, you're an adult, I'm an adult, we're all adults, everyone's an adult. And so people talk to each other differently. And the first positive thing I noticed, which stood out and stands out to me now, even doing apprenticeships now, is that, the learner's not a child anymore, they're an adult. They're paying a wage. They're paying tax. They're paying, they're buying houses, buying cars, doing all these things that grown-ups do. And it's quite a shock the first time. And actually you're treated like an adult. And that's also a sign of good apprenticeship. If everyone's treating you like an adult and it's like, well, actually, that should be how it should be in school, surely, in my opinion. And so, like, originally I was like really resistant. I didn't want to go back to school, but then when you go into it, and actually it's there, they're the first models of what it's like to be a proper grown up that I'd probably had ever. Like these people have been working forever. Like when I was at work, there was a guy called Trevor he was just another guy doing the job, but he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. Like it sounds weird, taught me all the words to every single Motown song because he was mad into Motown or like kind of like 80s cheese power ballads. And so, but like, as part of that, you learn that, you don't have to put up a big front about, look how, hard I am, how cool I am. He was very much just kind of like, well, very much of the kind of, well, do you know what? He got divorced whilst we were on apprenticeship. Sometimes, things go horribly wrong, and there's no point, you can't stuff it all inside and be angry about it. The best thing you do is just turn up to work, have a friend you can talk to, and talk. And there's loads of like little things like that. These are like grown-up things. I'm thinking my little child that wants to be a rock star is it doesn't fit in with that. So it's it's an interesting shock. But yeah, like I wouldn't change it for anything. It's the single biggest growth in my life. I feel like I went from child to adult in a very short space of time.
And that's the thing with apprenticeships, isn't it? It's from school going straight into an apprenticeship is completely different. You've got that independence, it's a proper job. People treat you as part of the team. It's not making cups of teas endlessly. It is, you are, involved in the work, and it is full on. So, I mean, you've got great experience of that. What would you say to someone who's thinking about doing an apprenticeship?
Well, you like for me, like you could waste your life looking and thinking about college. And this sounds terrible. Thinking about going to college means you can wait till next September. That's basically just giving up a portion of your life waiting. And like when you're an apprenticeship, do you know what? If you don't like it after 3 weeks, you can quit. Like that sounds terrible to say, but you can. Like, it's your life. You own it. You can do what you want with it. But the thing with apprentice, what you might find when you get on there, one, you're earning the money. You can buy the things that you want. You can live the life that you want. You're getting the education as well. You get a certificate at the end, and that's good. But in reality, it's not about that. It's when it's that, people talk about having experience to get a job and all that sort of stuff. But there's some truth in that. You get the experience. You learn what work is like. You learn what handling people is like, and you learn how to. You can imagine listening to the nonsense coming out of my mouth. I had a lot of people have words with me over my apprenticeship, and they did, but you learn how to take feedback without like going home and crying about it, for lack of a better word. Like when I first was told, why are you always late? That's not good enough. Don't be so bad, Charles. It was like, you have your talking to, and then eventually you learn how to deal with that. And you realize actually that's part of life.
Yeah.
People aren't always happy with you all the time. You're not going to be nannied forever. But when you can handle that with like grace and like emotional intelligence or whatever, when you kind of say yes to doing things and actually engage with stuff, the stuff you learn, you can't put words on it. But like that for me sorts all the people I know who are doing really, really well are all people who've kind of, done something. They haven't waited for life to happen. They've gone into it. They haven't like shirked at the first sign of like, oh no, they said they said me breath smells or something like that. They're the ones who've kind of gone, okay, my breath stinks. I'm taking a mint to work with me the next day. You can tell I've had that one before. But do you know what I mean? It's that thing, if you've got an apprenticeship, take it, try it, see it. It's your life, own it, make what you want out of it. People don't go on apprenticeships. It's not like a toy thing where you do it for a year and then maybe afterwards you can do something else. If you go on that and realize that you're good at the job, which probably will happen, and you realize that actually there's lots of money in that job and you will earn that money. And age 16, you could be earning a wage that someone going to university is not going to earn until they're 21, 22, 23, maybe even later than that in some cases. Some people never, they go to university and they never get higher than that. At age 16, 17, 18, you could be earning a proper, adult's wage. Who's to say you can't buy, oh, no one, the youth of today will never buy a house. Who's to say that? That's nonsense. I did. One of my apprentices, friends in the year after me, he got his house like pretty much the same time I did. Loads of people know who were apprentices saved up their wages to buy nice cars, buy houses, buy all these nice things that they say we're never going to get because of student debt. I'm an apprentice. I ain't got no student debt. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the advantage, isn't it? You know, you don't have that student debt. You're working, and you know you're earning, but you're also learning at the same time. So you get your qualifications, and then of course, you know, they go from different levels. You can do it right up to from intermediate to degree level apprenticeships. So you know they're very, you know, they tick all the boxes, don't they? You get the best of both worlds with an apprenticeship.
You don't have to stop either, do you? You can carry
exactly.
on. I didn't stop. I did the level 2, level 3, and like level 3 course, and I did a night school afterwards. You don't have to stop forever.
So,
you know, you get into habit as well, don't you? As well, like sometimes when you think if you do one thing and you can stop at the end of it, and that's the end, fine. But with the apprenticeship, I think it gets you used to building yourself up, and you can keep going, can't you?
Yeah, and that's really important as well. What happened? What was the process for you from when you finished the apprenticeship to becoming this digital coach?
Oh, it was like this. It was all over the place. So when I finished it was when I finished the apprenticeship, the company I actually did the apprenticeship with a couple of years later. So I did another job for a couple of years in the same sort of field, doing making books and stuff. And then when I wanted to start my own business, and so I was actually talking to my old assessor, my old coach. And so, because that's the other thing no one tells you about, like, you know, the coach or the assessor apprentice relationship is very different to a teacher learner relationship, because you are, again, equals, whatever. And so I was talking to him, this is years afterwards when we were just friends. And I was saying about like starting a business and wanting to do this, wanting to do that, and wanting to do the other. And then we were talking about training. They were talking about they had a machine that nobody knew that I used to use, but they didn't have anyone who could do training with. I said, oh, how'd you get doing the training thing anyway? And one thing led to another. And he said, why don't you do a bit of a thing with us? And so we went on for, I started my own business, and he had me in for like a contractor to do this one job for this one company, training, one apprentice how to use one machine. Like, really boring. They paid me to do it. It must have cost them a fortune, but they did it. And but then after that, I kind of got a bug for it. I said, well, like, this is good, this was. Is there any more like that? And then it turned into they had a class they needed. They had a couple they needed to get through exams, and then that grew into they had 2 classes they needed to do. And then they said, well, why don't we just contract you for a day a week? And it picked up. And then when my business was really hard work, and like a part way through, I just fell out of love with it. It was like you one thing no one tells you is that the hours you work don't end. And like there were some days where, you know, you'd be up all night. I remember, the reason I think I'm married to my wife I'm married to now, she came to join me at 10 o'clock at night when she finished work to help me finish a job till 2 o'clock in the morning. So material, but like no one tells you about that sort of stuff in a business. And I thought, you know what, I love the training. And everyone I spoke to, well, if you love the training and that's the job that you like doing, and it's in the field that you like as well, why not jump? Why not make the switch? And it just, you know, the universe aligned for me one day. So I thought, right, I'm getting out this business. There was an opportunity at the company at the training company I went to college at. And so like, I sold the business. I sold it for bits. I sold all the parts off to people, sold all the customers to a company, went to join the training company. And like, it's been bumpy because that company went out of business, and we moved around a bit, but I love the training they gave me. They gave me another apprenticeship. It wasn't called an apprenticeship, but it was training to be a teacher, but it feels to me like another apprenticeship again. And they kept giving that training. And then so from, you know, I would have never even heard of printing, like through school or anything like that. A youth worker gave me this one taste of this place where I could learn about this one really niche thing that you never hear of. And I thought, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. And then years later, I started training there, and I found the true thing that I actually love to do, which is training. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I didn't find it at day one, but I did find it eventually through what I found at day one, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. And I think what's really important from your journey is you've never been afraid to take opportunities, and you've just gone for it. And when things have not worked out, you've been able to reflect and take stock of what's going on, and just being honest with yourself and said, you know what, we're starting working up to 2 a.m. On projects. Is that really what I want to do? And being honest with yourself, that self-awareness, and then, you know, continuing your journey. I think that's really important. And I think what people really should take is that everything happens for a reason. And when you go through that journey, use it as something to help build you up for what's coming up next. And whatever you go through is never wasted. There is a reason for what you go through. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you taking these chances, it takes a brave person to do what you're doing. I mean, do you have to have a certain mindset to do this? I mean, it seems like you're fearless and you really, just go for what you believe in. I mean, what does it take to do that?
That's it. I think it's just you got people say no to too much stuff. Do you know what I mean? People, you imagine like sit at home like, scrolling on your phone. I mean, I didn't do that when I was a teenager and more playing like Unreal Tournament or something. But you sit there doing that, and it's like, oh, should we do this? Say no. Yeah. And I think that's the worst attitude. And I don't know how I got into this. I don't know if it's quite. I watched the film Yes Man. That kind of says a lot about it. But basically, just saying yes to stuff. Things aren't hard. Like when somebody says, "Oh yeah, we're going to go out for ice cream this weekend, Charles. Do you want to come?" Instead of going, "No, I'm busy scrolling on your phone," say yes to stuff, and that's it. I don't because I like life's not hard. Things are easy. People make things hard, but I think people think things are hard because they're not doing anything on the board and stuff like that. But things are fun. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Try new things. I had a friend teach me how to spit fire. How cool is that? It's a circuitry. And he taught me how to do it. And I was like, how'd you do that? And he says, oh, I'll show you if you want. I'm like, you could say no, or you could
Yeah.
spit fire. What would you
Yeah.
choose? It's just
Yeah.
cool. It's just and I don't know. It's like a habit for me. I say yes to almost everything, as you can tell. I say yes to anything I can because you never know where it'll lead to. And so many things I've said yes to have turned into money later on, or a house, this house we live in, or do you know what I mean? All the good things have come from saying yes to something. Nothing good has ever come from saying no to something, unless it's strangers or drugs or things like that. There are certain things, but do you know what I mean? All of the cool things in life, say yes to it. I'm not too cool. Do you know what I mean? I'm not too cool or too trendy or whatever it is to go out and do something fun. You got to say yes to stuff. And if yes means printing, taking a job in printing, well, it was a job that was an offer and it was something I never heard of. Do it. Give yourself permission to try something you never ever heard of before. Because if you've never heard of it, the chances are other people haven't heard of it either, and there's loads of money in it. If everyone's doing it, probably boring. Do you know what I mean? Probably, why be like everybody else? There's no money in that, surely.
Wow. Take the road less traveled. That's an interesting one. So I mean, you've got lots of experiences. There's lots of things that you've done. What do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned in your experiences?
That you're not made of glass. Things aren't going to go wrong. Whatever it is, tomorrow is another day, and you're going to like this. Because I've also burnt bridges and upset people and stuff as well. There are jobs which I want to go back to, which is never going to happen because of my big mouth. But yeah, tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's the end of the world. But you've always got to live with it tomorrow as well, haven't you? You're always going to do it tomorrow. And so if you say yes to something today, tomorrow you've got the joy of that, haven't you? But if you say no to something, tomorrow it's not there, it's gone. The world is, less for it and stuff like that. And I think it depends on my mood is what advice I'd give at this point. But yeah, I think the main advice is if no one's ever heard of it, if it's something new and it's different, if you've not heard of it, it's probably a good thing. Do you know what I mean? It's probably something you should try. And like that, because that's how robots are made, how AI is invented, how all sorts of, if no one's ever heard of it, if it's something really vague and different and weird, do that. Do you know what I mean? Because that's cool. Like if everyone's doing it, nah, who cares? And well, and whilst you're there saying yes to stuff, like don't say no to everything along the way. Don't kind of, do you know what I mean? Like you might you can have your heart set on one thing and say no to everything else, and like you miss out on all the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? You miss out on the journey or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's all I've got.
I think you've answered my next question already. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh yeah, don't be so moody, Charles. Like, don't worry about it. It'd be fine. Just do it. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Like, get up, have it. I'd be like, put that Xbox controller down. There's a good boy. That's what I'd say. Like, yeah, there's the door. That's what I'd say. I feel like I've wasted so much time. That's what if I could take anything back, that's what I'd take back. The time I wasted just doing silly stuff. And you need to chill out, yeah. But the stuff, yeah, all the days where I've said, nah, not today. That's the stuff I'd take back.
But do you think it's made you the person that you are now? Had you not gone through that?
Yeah, probably has.
Yeah.
And this is it, life's full of ups and downs and stuff as well, isn't it? Like, not
Yeah.
everything's all go all the time. Life isn't like it's not a choice of like, it's not binary. It's not like the lap of luxury or the pit of despair. There's all this good stuff in the middle, and that's usually where all the funny stories come from as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, you definitely need the two. I'm thinking all the times I've probably giggled the most have been like times like that when you've been kind of, what should we do tonight? I just go put the telly on. I'm going to sit here and see what happens.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes, you need that, don't you?
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day like?
At the minute, with like the Zoom universe rolling, I think about 8:30 I do a call on Zoom, and about 9 o'clock I do another one, and about 11 o'clock I do another one. And so at the minute it's a lot of it's not so glamorous at the moment. A lot of the time it's I do some full days of training. They're great. We do a full day, a college day, where you get a load of apprentices. 9:30 you start this course, and then I put me fancy headphones on that glow blue, and I start like ranting and raving about kind of like digital marketing stuff, and it's ace and it's glamorous. And then so we tend to do like one of them or a couple of them a week, and then after that we do one-to-one. So we do like a call with it. And so the bit I really enjoy with that is particularly with like apprentices or with employers and stuff like that. It's when they've got they're doing like I don't know, website, e-commerce thing, something like that, and then in training, instead of like talking at them like a teacher and blah blah blah, let's do that. It's a case of, okay, show me the screen, let's work through the problem and actually get to diagnose and work through the problem and explore things and try things out. And so I think the main one I do a lot of is this Google Analytics thing. Dead boring. You think, who cares about numbers? Or when you look at numbers, you go, whoa, loads of numbers. Where do I go from here? And so it's like, all right, let's break it down. Let's look at it. You show me what you've got and we'll work through each bit and we'll work through what's useful. And so I tend to do them every day. So I tend to do like 2-hour sessions. After 2 hours, people are sick of me and like, all right, thanks, Charles. And I can hang up and I can do another one on something else. So it's either teaching like a proper session with all me ranting, or it's like that kind of one-to-one session. And it seems to be, right now it's everyone's online, aren't they? So what better time to kind of learn it? So just do that all day, every day. So if you like talking, which I clearly do, it's fine, isn't it?
Well, you're good at this interview stuff because you've already answered part of the next question that I was going to ask you. But before we get to that, you mentioned something about analytics, and it's really important, especially with if you're wanting to start your own business, understanding Google Analytics. Anyone who is, starting a business, it's just something you really need to know. Would you say it's as important as having a website and obviously social media presence, having those analytics?
So understanding the numbers, I don't know, I can't quantify this exactly, but I think, and I think I'm right with this, I need people to kind of validate this for me, but I think the difference between somebody who understands the numbers and somebody who just posts the content is 20 grand. And like, so in my experience, all the people who do really well, who get paid really well, the main difference I can see is that they understand how the numbers work. And because like anyone can write a post, right? Anyone can create something on social media. Anyone can write a blog. Anyone can create a video. A video might be a little bit harder, but I'm sorry, guys, TikTok, anyone can create a video. But understanding what actually, when you look at that and break it down and look at which ones have worked, which ones haven't worked, and comparing the two and trying to see past that was nice, or anything like that, and see past what I think and see what other people think, understanding those numbers, like that's I think that's the difference between kind of, having a marketing team and having a successful marketing strategy. Do you know what I mean? Having someone doing the marketing and having a whole marketing kind of strategy and having it work. The numbers are great. Google Analytics is really good because it's got people went with social media, people just think it's all social media, but like all of the companies that I use for, let's say if I want to go to a restaurant, chances are I'm going to look on Google Maps and I'm probably going to see the reviews on Google Maps. And I'm probably going to click on the website or the menu from Google Maps or something like that. And social media doesn't measure that, but Google Analytics does. And so the good thing about like Google Analytics in particular is that you can put all your analytics in one place. And there's another thing called Google Data Studio, which I'm like blabbing well off topic here, where you can do that even more, and you can kind of customize it and personalize it and just pick out the exact things you want. And so what I quite like with the analytics side of it is seeing what numbers are important, what and what things vanity metrics, for example. So a lot of people are like, oh, I got loads of followers on Instagram, all this sort of stuff. That doesn't mean anything. That's great, that's fine, but that doesn't always translate into money. You could have 100 followers on Instagram, and all 100 of them are your customers who could give you £20,000 every single month. Or you could have 1,000 followers on Instagram who give you nothing, they just think you're funny. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, but think of the advertising revenue. The advertising revenue is poor. It's not good. Do you know what I mean? Forget that. That's not what it's about. What it is about is if you've got something meaningful, something kind of useful, or something that people want to hear with something to back that up, your analytics can prove that. You know what I mean? If you've got like a product to sell, you can promote it and you can look at it, and then you can go and you can look at what's actually worked on that and go, right, well, we know this product's important. Our customers want it. Everyone reviews it really well, but nobody's seen it. What do you need to do to make people see it? And the analytics will show you that. And they'll show you if you're reaching the same people over and over again, it'll show you that. If it's the same users clicking through over and over again, you're not reaching new people, it'll show you that. If people go to it and the thing doesn't work or it's too hard, it'll show you that. And that's, yeah, what a tangent to go down. Google Analytics, super important. That's kind of, or just analytics in general, understanding those analytics. That's why I believe it's probably worth 20 grand more, because when it's right, you earn real money from it. It's not just, pretend money for a couple of followers.
Does using keywords still help to put your site on top of a search, or does that not work anymore? Do you now have to pay Google to get to the top?
Yeah, there's a bit more in with kind of like with hitting Google. Loads of when customers say they want to kind of do the marketing, they always say, I want to be top of Google. But what they don't say is what they want to be at top of Google for. And so Google doesn't care about me as a company, doesn't care about anyone as a company. Google cares about like you as a user, getting what you want first time. Do you know what I mean? That's what it wants. And so when you go onto Google, you ask it a question, and Google goes, well, if we don't give them the answer they want to hear, they'll never use Google again. So we better give them the right answer. And so that's what they do. And it searches for a couple of things. So if you want to kind of master Google, I see you've either got to have the niche keywords and be the right answer for that, or you've got to kind of make your website like the authority for that search term. One thing I found quite interesting is how much are you allowed to say? Yeah. So there are some companies where, you've got like a marketing experts who do all these blogs and stuff like that. And the blogs, they're kind of middling. They're not great. They go in there, but then they'll take somebody who is like I don't know if it's a recruitment company, they'll take a recruiter's blog, or if it's recruitment's the main one I see this one, to be honest. But you take somebody who's actually on the ground level, and they'll do a blog and stuff like that, and they'll write it using the words that person would use. And so sometimes you'll get somebody like a recruiter will use recruitment words, or you'll get like, I don't know, like a garage technician, like for, like a dealership will use garage words or something like that. And they'll write it in that way. And because of the keywords they've chosen, because they're the actual words that someone like that would say throughout, Google recognizes that, and it can see that relevance. And so it's like, it used to be a case of, content is king, and therefore we just got to put all the keywords on and we'll be top of Google. That's not really true anymore. Now it's, kind of congruence is king, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've got to have the keywords, you've got to answer the question, but also it's got to be consistent throughout the site. And, you want to have other sites linked to your site to say, actually, do you know what? These guys know what they're talking about. So we go to them. You want the suppliers to say, actually, we like, all your suppliers to link to your site to say, yes, they're the authority. And for them to kind of be talking about the same keywords. You want, do you know what I mean? All that sort of stuff. You want the links. If you're going to say how to do something, it's no good just having a blog with how to do something. You've got to have a YouTube video in there, because when you search how to do anything on Google, the first organic searches are videos. You've got to have a YouTube video on there, or at least embedded on the blog. Do you know what I mean? So I think the keywords are still important, but it's about building that authority as well. You've got to use the right words, but you've got to use it with authority, and you've got to have other stuff kind of pointing at it to say, this is why they're important. The equivalent of having a certificate on the wall if you were like a GP, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's made it very clear. Thank you for sharing that with us. I was going to ask you as well, in terms of, you mentioned when I was asking you what you enjoy the most, and you said working with apprentices and helping them out. Would you say that's what you enjoy doing the most in your job? Or?
Definitely. I think because like everybody remembers that age as well, don't they? That coming of age time. I think actually it's a tough time. You're going through, you're moving out for the first time, you're getting paid for the first time, you're getting in debt for the first time, you've got a whole load of like positive and negative things that are all happening the first time. It's a big part of your life. And I remember for me, it was such a like every memory. I don't remember what I did after the age of 21, but I remember every moment of 16 to 21, which is weird. And so like it's such an important like phase of my life for me. And some things about it were difficult. Do you know what I mean? And so with my apprentices, I like to kind of think, well, if it was me, how what kind of translates, what would make it better for them? They've got the same transition. They're going through the same kind of like unspoken drama. I think the reason why I like apprentices most is because they want to be treated like adults, and they are adults and sometimes haven't been treated as adults. So I'm hoping talking to me for the first time and being treated like an adult is like, oh, actually Charles is all right. And all seeing that, oh, the apprenticeship works then, because like he hasn't blown his brain out or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? He's not rotting at the bottom of some kind of like, dead end job from the end of his apprenticeship. Do you know what I mean? I'm hoping it kind of, at least models something right. I just think it's weird. I've always thought I've never really had like, there's never been a particular thing I want to do. There's just been like a group of people I want to work with. And it's been that kind of age, like kind of when you're in that early, you've left school, you're looking for what you want to do with your life. I feel like that's where I can be the most used to the rest of planet Earth. And so I enjoy it because like it's little things like that. Like I can get all the abuse I want from like kind of employers, from like from reviews and stuff like that. Touch wood, not got any bad ones yet. But you know what I mean? You can hear all the negative stuff from anywhere else. But if the apprentice is happy, like that'll do me.
Yeah.
That's me sorted. Like that's all you want. If they're in the role that they want, they're comfortable, they feel confident from it, and it's working, and they're seeing results, then and they're seeing that actually, do you know what, they are adults, they are churning out results, they are making money for a company, they are contributing to planet Earth in a way that they didn't think they were. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want. That's the important thing. And of course I love the money as well. But like do you know what, but it's that age group. If someone say, would you go and change it working in a school? No chance. What about adult learners who are going to pay you loads of extra money to do it? I'd do it for 3 months and then I'd want to go back. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. It's like I know who the people I'm ministering to are, just not what to do with them. Yeah.
So what are your plans for the future?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Do you know, I've got a vision for a virtual college. I mean, granted, I'm working for a virtual college now, but like I can picture, I've got a vision for the next level of it. Like the technology we've got, there's nothing to say we have to do these things sat at home with our laptops and all this sort of stuff the way we're doing. Why can't we have a fully immersive virtual college experience? And I am a bit of a technophile. I do quite like a bit of tech. And what I want to do is first I want to build a virtual college where you can sit at your desktop and you are still in the room, the college room. And so instead of just being like a little tiny screen like this and maybe a tiny bit there, you can see the actual whiteboard. The teacher can move around, can have props, can write on the whiteboard, and it appears on your screen. You've got the choice of views. I also want to kind of, one day I've got the idea of putting a 360 camera in the middle of the room, which is where your perspective is, but making it so that every other person who joins you can have an avatar in the same classroom.
Wow.
This sounds like sci-fi nonsense, but all the technology of this exists already.
Yeah.
Like none of it doesn't exist.
Is it augmented reality? It's kind of
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if you put your, you put your glasses on, like, and then it's like I look around and right, James looks back, right, Charles. Do you know what I mean? And like that's the technology exists for that, for a lot of that. Some things it doesn't, like they're getting the camera right and having other people in the room. Got to work on that. That way, I haven't seen that yet. But everything else to make a virtual college exists. But colleges in the UK don't do it. And like, why are colleges in the UK still just scrabbling out of the Victorian era when there's this kind of beautiful horizon on there where people can, people like we don't have to sit in classrooms doing the same thing we do. There are better ways to learn things. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes some people learn things better from home, learn it by exercise, learn by doing things. And on virtual, at the minute, a lot of virtual classrooms are very much presentation based. We can make them activity based. Proof of that is that my job is an activity I do at a computer that I can do remotely. Why can't I do the same thing in a college environment and do an actual job remotely? If that makes sense.
No, so it does. Yeah. And, you're clearly a pioneer and, you're setting trailblazing the way forward. And I'm sure once that gets going, a lot of people will see that and want to jump on board with what you're doing. So certainly looking forward to seeing more of that in the future. How can people get in touch with you or learn more about what you do?
Well, I've got a nice, easy website. If anyone wants to talk to me straight away, it's www.bethemost.co.uk. Job done. So I'm always on there. Yeah, easy peasy. So I've got the old website on there, so I'm always on that. LinkedIn's the main thing. Like I don't know why I obsess LinkedIn and YouTube. I don't know why I just obsess about them. So I'm always on like LinkedIn and YouTube, and like even like fielding messages on LinkedIn. Yeah, why not? I enjoy it. Do you know what? There's no such thing as a stupid question. And every now and then, like I say, you got to say yes, because there are people who've given me work from silly questions, and do you know what I mean? And like, yeah, there's you know, I'm sure like actual discoveries have been made from this same thing. So yeah, like please find me on LinkedIn. Find me on, I mean, YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't search very well on YouTube because my videos are awful. But do you know what I mean? Find me somewhere. But yeah, bethemost.co.uk or on LinkedIn, and yeah, ask me anything. I'll tell you anything. It doesn't matter who you are. And if like same with like apprentices and stuff like that. I work with a cracking recruiter to getting apprentices into work. If you're interested in the digital marketing, you know, give us a shout. I'll point you at him. I'll point you at this guy, and he'll, you know, if it gets you a job, boom, it gets you a job, and he's really good. Yeah. If whenever I don't know, my mate does. That's the rule, isn't it? I don't know, but my mate does.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for coming and talking to us here today. Really appreciate it. You know, you're a great ambassador for apprenticeships. You know, you're a great example of someone who took that bold step and went into an apprenticeship program. And, you know, you've come out of it. Yes, there's been a few ups and downs, but that's helped you find your feet. And, you know, again, pioneering the way forward, trailblazing the way. You've got your mind set on some great ambitions and targets, and I'm sure you'll reach that very soon. But again, thank you so much for coming here and sharing this information with us. Again, for advocating for apprenticeships as well. You know, we need more people like you, so really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you very much. It's been emotional, man. Easy job.